Now, leadership on the state level, it matters too. It certainly mattered in South Dakota. I am so proud to say that South Dakota's strong economy has been a beacon of freedom for America.
You put it in a part of a chapter called Bad Day to Be a Goat. And then after you shot the dog, you, quote, realized another unpleasant job needed to be done.
Not only did she admit to shooting her pets, she also lied about meeting Kim Jong-un.
You talk about meeting some world leaders. Quote, I remember when I met with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un.
This passage, and I've met with many world leaders, so I'm glad that this book is being released in a couple of days and that those edits will be in place and that people will have the updated version.
What do you get when you mix a scandal-loving governor with zero Homeland Security experience? Apparently Trump's top pick for Homeland Security Secretary. Yep, you heard that right. The Donald's gone and tapped South Dakota's Kristi Noem for one of the most crucial jobs in the nation. But wait, it gets better. Noem's resume highlights include killing her untrainable dog and using state planes like her personal Uber. Talk about qualifications. Stick around as we unpack this political roller coaster, from small-town shenanigans to potentially overseeing ICE and FEMA. It's gonna be a wild ride. Looks like Kristi Noem's trading in her cowboy hat for a security badge. Yeehaw, y'all. We've got ourselves a rootin' tootin' Homeland Security nominee. So who is this cowgirl turned potential cabinet member? Kristi Noem's been running the show as South Dakota's governor since 2019. Before that, she was busy wrangling cows on her family ranch. Now Trump wants her to wrangle terrorists and natural disasters. Makes perfect sense, right? Let's compare Noem's rural resume to the job description, shall we? On one hand, we've got managing prairie dog populations and organizing rodeos. On the other, we've got cybersecurity threats and coordinating responses to hurricanes. Totally the same thing. I'm sure her experience judging pie contests at the state fair will come in handy when she's briefing the president on national security risks. Speaking of Noem's past, did you hear about the time she tried to pass a law banning transgender athletes from women's sports? Yep, that was her big priority as governor. I'm sure that experience will be super relevant when she's dealing with international terrorism or immigration policy. Maybe she thinks ISIS agents are sneaking into the country disguised as high school volleyball players. Now, let's talk numbers. How much Homeland Security experience does Noem actually have? Zero. Zilch. Nada. Unless you count watching 24 reruns as training, our girl Kristi is coming in with a big fat goose egg in the relevant experience department.
Only 13 years ago, Donald Trump was the subject of a big celebrity roast.
You put it in a part of a chapter called Bad Day to Be a Goat. And then after you shot the dog, you, quote, realized another unpleasant job needed to be done.
I'm going to talk about my specific meetings with world leaders. I'm saying that this book is very good, and I've met with many world leaders.
South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem will be a part of President-elect Donald Trump's cabinet.
Now, I've been governor under both President Trump and Joe Biden. And people ask me all the time, what's the biggest difference? And I tell them that President Trump honored the Constitution. He let me do my job.
But wait, there's more. We haven't even gotten to the juiciest part of Noem's past. Remember how I mentioned she was good at wrangling animals? Well, turns out she's not so great with man's best friend. Brace yourselves for the infamous dog incident. In a move that would make Cruella de Vil proud, Noem admitted to shooting her family's untrainable 14-month-old puppy. That's right, folks. Instead of obedience school, this pup got a one-way ticket to doggy heaven. I guess Noem believes in extreme vetting for pets too. Let's hope she doesn't apply the same problem-solving skills to border control. So, what do you think? Is Noem's trigger-happy approach going to translate well to national security? Will she try to solve immigration issues by suggesting we put down anyone who can't pass a citizenship test? Stay tuned, because this wild ride is just getting started. Hold on to your sombreros, amigos. Noem's about to turn the border into her personal rodeo. But here's the million-peso question. Is her tough-talking cowgirl act just a load of bull? Or does she have the chops to wrangle the real immigration challenges? When it comes to immigration, Kristi Noem's about as subtle as a bull in a china shop. She's been yapping about how Biden's border policies are letting in a whole bunch of bad hombres. According to our cowgirl governor, he is ignoring federal law and allowing people into this country that are incredibly dangerous. Yikes. I guess in Noem's world, every immigrant comes with their own personal warning label and a side of guacamole. But here's the thing, folks. Running a border isn't exactly like herding cattle. It's more complicated than deciding which cows get to move into the next pasture. Noem's been busy playing border patrol with South Dakota's National Guard, sending them down to Texas faster than you can say yeehaw. She's even talked about shipping some razor wire down south, because nothing says welcome to America like the threat of tetanus, right? Now, some smarty pants experts are raising their eyebrows higher than Noem's approval ratings. They're worried that her lack of experience in federal Homeland Security policy could lead to some pretty dangerous consequences. It's like putting a rodeo clown in charge of nuclear codes. Entertaining, sure, but maybe not the safest bet. And boy, oh boy, does Noem love to talk about kicking people out. She's been quoted saying, "President Trump will deport the most dangerous illegal aliens first, the murderers, rapists, and other criminals." Geez, Kristi, tell us how you really feel. I'm starting to think her ideal border policy involves a giant catapult and a "see you later, alligator" sign. But here's where things get really spicy. Noem's tough talk hasn't just ruffled feathers south of the border. She's managed to tick off some folks right in her own backyard. After suggesting that tribal leaders were more interested in cartel cash than community care, she got herself banned from some tribal lands.
Well, you know, as soon as this was brought to my attention, I certainly made some changes and looked at
Kristi Noem, who I really love that she thinks she still has a shot. I mean, in which she brags about shooting her own puppy. And not just a puppy, this nomecidal maniac also murdered her goat.
Now, leadership on the state level, it matters too. It certainly mattered in South Dakota. I am so proud to say that South Dakota's strong economy has been a beacon of freedom for America.
She is now threatening to put Trump in jail if he doesn't stop talking about the case, which means Trump is definitely going to jail because he can't stop talking about the case.
Talk about a home state rodeo gone wrong. So what happens if Noem gets to play border boss for real? Well, folks are starting to sweat about mass deportations and communities getting torn apart. It's like she wants to turn the border into a giant game of Red Rover, but with much higher stakes. At this point, I'm starting to wonder if Noem's approach to border security is less about actual policy and more about auditioning for a reality TV show. Extreme Border Makeover. Anyone. Coming soon to a Fox News near you. From cyber attacks to natural disasters, the Department of Homeland Security juggles more hot potatoes than a clumsy chef at a county fair. But here's the kicker. Noem's experience with these issues is about as deep as a kiddie pool. Can our border-obsessed governor handle the heat when national security gets really spicy? Let's break it down, folks. The Homeland Security Secretary isn't just about yelling, "You're fired," at illegal immigrants. They've got to deal with everything from terrorist threats to making sure grandma doesn't get stranded on her roof during a hurricane. It's like being the world's most stressed out juggler, but instead of balls, you're tossing around the safety of an entire nation.
Because why not? Nobody else will do it, but I will.
I did it
because I do it
fast.
for my friends. So you did it beautifully, too.
And now she's trying to spin it like the ghostwriter somehow screwed her over.
She will oversee multiple agencies, including the Secret Service, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, Immigration, and Customs Enforcement.
That's right. She's saying, all she's trying to say is the book is very, very good. And she's met with many world leaders.
This is a really great governor, very successful governor. She read some of the numbers.
Now, picture Kristi Noem trying to tackle a cyber attack. It's like watching your grandpa try to program the VCR. Amusing, but probably not very effective. Have we tried turning the internet off and on again, she might ask, while Russian hackers make off with all our nuclear codes? And let's not even get started on her disaster management skills. Her idea of emergency preparedness probably involves a really big umbrella and some duct tape. But wait, there's more. The Department of Homeland Security isn't just some small-town sheriff's office. We're talking about an agency with over 240,000 employees and a budget that could buy everyone in America a lifetime supply of freedom fries. It's got more moving parts than a Rube Goldberg machine, and Noem's supposed to keep it all running smoothly? Good luck with that, cowgirl. So, what happens when Noem has to deal with stuff that isn't about building big, beautiful walls? Maybe she'll suggest we fight climate change by having everyone in America turn on their air conditioners at the same time. Or perhaps her solution to international terrorism will be to challenge ISIS to a good old-fashioned rodeo showdown. If we can't lasso them, we'll hog tie them. But jokes aside, folks, this is where things get scary. Security experts are more nervous than a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. They're worried that putting someone with zero experience in charge of our nation's safety is like hiring a toddler to perform brain surgery. Sure, they might accidentally get something right, but do you really want to take that chance? At the end of the day, you've got to wonder, is Trump picking Noem because she's qualified or because she's good at saying yes sir and looking pretty for the cameras? It's starting to smell fishier than a salmon's gym bag around here.
There's no way Trump is going to pick Kristi Noem, but he wants to keep her around in case one of the other lapdogs stops obeying his commands. Not only did she admit to shooting her pets, she also lied about meeting Kim Jong-un.
You talk about meeting some world leaders. Quote, I remember when I met with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un.
Why would she even claim this? She's like the female George Santos. Although sometimes George Santos is the female George Santos, so... Which, maybe the Ghost Rider was the ghost of the goat. We don't know. You know, every time, I've talked about this a few times, I always feel like half the audience thinks I'm kidding about the dog killing stuff. I'm not kidding. Kristi Noem has a book coming out tomorrow.
Say things about you that just aren't true and that they know aren't true and they can't do anything about it.
But hey, who needs actual qualifications when you've got loyalty and a nice cowboy hat, right? Trump's next big move? Maybe he'll name a rodeo clown as Secretary of State. I mean, why not? His cabinet's already looking more like a three-ring circus than a government. Let's face it, folks, Trump's not exactly known for picking the most qualified people for important jobs. It's like he's playing a weird game of pin the tail on the donkey, but instead of a donkey, it's our government, and instead of a tail, it's random people he likes. Remember when presidents used to care about little things like experience and knowledge? Well, Trump's throwing that old rulebook out faster than he tweets. For him, it's all about loyalty. Who cares if you know anything about the job? As long as you're ready to pucker up and kiss the ring, you're in. Take a look at some of his other picks. There's Tom Homan, the guy Trump wants as his border czar. I guess being really angry about immigration is all the qualification you need these days. And let's not forget Stephen Miller, the guy who looks like he'd burst into flames if he ever smiled, getting tapped as Deputy Chief of Staff for policy. Because nothing says welcoming America like a guy who probably hisses at sunlight.
This passage, and I've met with many world leaders, so I'm glad that this book is being released in a couple of days and that those edits will be in place and that people will have the updated version.
So those are the moments where you get to see his heart and that he's always thinking about someone else in those situations and checking in with them to make sure they're okay.
Sources say the Republican governor will serve as Homeland Security Secretary.
Kristi can drag him to the rock quarry and put him down.
I'm sure he underestimated me, having no clue about my experience staring down little tyrants.
Now, some boring old political experts are getting their panties in a bunch over this. They're saying crazy things like, maybe we should have people who actually know stuff running the government. Can you believe it? Next, they'll be suggesting we should listen to scientists or something. But here's where it gets really fun. Imagine what might happen if Trump gets his way and fills the whole government with his buddies. It'll be like a really bad reality TV show, but instead of getting voted off an island, people might lose their healthcare or get deported. Hilarious, right? Seriously though, some folks are worried that putting a bunch of newbies in charge might not be the best idea. They're concerned about losing all that boring institutional knowledge and expertise. But come on, who needs decades of experience when you've got a red hat and a catchy slogan? At this point, I'm starting to wonder if Trump's turning the government into the world's biggest game of dress up. You get to play Homeland Security Secretary, and you get to play Secretary of State. Everybody gets a turn. It's like he's handing out cabinet positions like they're party favors at a really messed up birthday bash. So buckle up, America. If Trump gets his way, we might be in for 4 more years of Government the Reality Show. Let's just hope someone remembers to keep the nuclear codes away from the interns. Well, folks, it looks like Kristi Noem might be better suited for Secretary of Rodeos than Homeland Security. Can you imagine her trying to lasso terrorists? Yeehaw. But let's get serious for a second. Homeland Security isn't just about looking tough in a cowboy hat. It's about keeping millions of Americans safe from real threats, putting someone with zero experience in charge. That's scarier than Trump's spray tan. So here's the deal. We need to stay on top of this circus. Follow the news, talk to your neighbors, and make some noise if things look fishy. Don't just sit there like a bump on a log. Get involved. After all, if we don't keep an eye on these clowns in Washington, who will? Let's make sure our homeland stays secure, even if our politicians are a few fries short of a happy meal.